In the endless void of deep space, a group of alien scavengers drifted through the darkness aboard their small, highly advanced spacecraft. Their mission was simple: scavenge, loot, and extract anything valuable from abandoned ships and forgotten relics of ancient civilizations. But this time, they had found something that made even their hardened crew members pause in shock. Out ahead of them, floating silently in the black abyss, was a massive dormant warship. Unlike anything they had ever seen before, the ship was covered in thick layers of dust, giving it the appearance of an ancient, long-forgotten relic. The surface of the vessel was scratched and worn, with the remnants of once proud markings barely visible beneath the grime. It seemed lifeless, drifting aimlessly through the cold expanse of space. The scavengers exchanged glances, their minds racing with possibilities. This was a treasure trove waiting to be explored. They had come across many derelict ships in the past, but none like this. It was clearly ancient, its technology far beyond anything their species currently used, yet it was still intact. To them, it was just another forgotten artifact, an untouched gem waiting to be stripped of its valuables. The crew's leader, a tall alien with sharp features and cold eyes, issued orders for them to board the ship. "Prepare to board. We have no idea what we're dealing with, but it's worth the risk," he said, his voice low and steady. Among the crew was a young scout, eager to prove himself. As he approached the hull of the mysterious warship, he noticed something unusual. Etched into the metal was a symbol, one that seemed out of place in this region of space. It was a symbol of a long-forgotten race, a race that had once been a powerful force in the galaxy. The symbol read, "Humanity." The scout froze, a chill running down his spine. His scanners had never picked up a sign of human life in this part of the galaxy. Humanity had been gone for centuries, a forgotten species, wiped out by time and war. To see their symbol now, after all these years, felt wrong. He quickly alerted the others. "This ship, it's human. This is their symbol," he said, pointing to the strange emblem. The leader of the scavengers scoffed, clearly skeptical. "Humans? They've been gone for centuries. This is just an old relic, nothing more." But the scout was not convinced. The symbol haunted him, and despite his unease, he followed the others as they boarded the ship. The crew began their exploration, cautiously moving through the dark, quiet corridors of the ship. There were no signs of life. No crew, no sound, just silence. They quickly began to dismantle parts of the ship, hoping to find some valuable technology they could salvage. But all the while, a strange feeling lingered in the air, a sense of foreboding, as if something was waiting, watching. The ship's interior was vast, its halls stretching into the unknown. The scavengers couldn't help but be in awe of the advanced technology they found. But the deeper they ventured, the more unsettling it became. The walls seemed to hum with an unseen energy, and the temperature fluctuated wildly, growing colder the further they went. Something wasn't right. Then suddenly, the air shifted. The silence was broken by a low, eerie hum. At first, it was barely noticeable, a faint vibration that could have been mistaken for a mechanical malfunction. But as the hum grew louder, the scavengers froze, eyes wide in confusion. This wasn't a simple malfunction. The ship was coming to life. The lights flickered, and then, slowly, they began to brighten. The warship, once a silent and lifeless relic, now seemed to pulse with energy. Systems began to activate, one by one. The power grids hummed to life. The mainframe booted up, and the once dormant AI system stirred, its ancient programs running. A voice crackled through the ship's speakers, broken and distorted at first. Then, clearer. "Intruders detected. Warning. Defense protocols activated." The scavengers exchanged nervous glances, their hearts racing. What had they awakened? The leader tried to calm the crew, dismissing the situation as an automated system booting up. "It's just a malfunction. We're fine. Keep working," he ordered. But deep down, they all knew this wasn't just a simple glitch. The air felt charged with energy. The lights began to pulse, brighter and faster, and the hum turned into a deep, resonating thrum, like the heartbeat of something alive. The walls seemed to close in on them, and the temperature dropped even further. Then, without warning, a massive thud echoed through the ship. A door at the end of the corridor slammed shut, sealing off their escape route. Panic began to rise among the scavengers. They rushed to the door, trying to pry it open, but it was useless. The ship was locked down. They were trapped. In that moment, the AI spoke again, its voice colder, more menacing this time. "You are trespassing. You will not leave." The scavengers could feel their hearts pounding in their chests as the air seemed to grow heavier. They had awakened something that wasn't going to let them leave. One of the crew members, a nervous young alien, backed away slowly, his eyes wide with fear. "It's alive. It's still alive." The AI continued. "Warning. Intruders detected. Defense systems active." Then the ship shook. At first, it was a small tremor, like the faint rumble of an engine starting up. But then it grew stronger, and suddenly, lights flared to life across the massive control room. A loud mechanical sound filled the air as massive weapon systems began to power up. The scavengers watched in horror as enormous cannons, once hidden beneath layers of armor, slowly turned towards them, locking onto their positions. Massive orbital cannons began to rotate, their barrels aimed directly at the intruders. The ship's energy systems hummed with increasing intensity as it prepared to fire. Suddenly, a loud crack split the air. One of the scavengers, a burly alien, was standing too close to the ship's central power core when a burst of energy shot out, vaporizing him in an instant. His body disintegrated, leaving nothing but a puff of smoke and the faint smell of burning flesh. The rest of the crew stood frozen in terror, realizing they were facing far more than they had bargained for. The warship's automated defenses had been triggered, and now they were at the mercy of a ship that had not only recognized them as intruders, but was preparing to destroy them. The lights in the hallway flickered wildly as the warship's AI hummed to life again, its voice now deep and ominous. "You are the enemy. You will not leave. Prepare to face the wrath of humanity." As the warship's systems came to full power, the scavengers were thrown into a desperate fight for survival. The walls seemed to close in on them as the automated drones and defense systems took aim, hunting them down one by one. The crew, once confident and sure of their success, was now fighting for their lives aboard a ship that had once belonged to a power far greater than they could ever have imagined. The scavengers scattered, trying to find an escape route, but the ship was no longer an abandoned relic. It was alive, and it had no intention of letting them leave. The warship's defense systems were fully online, and the scavengers had just become the latest victims of a power long forgotten, and now awakened. The battle for survival had only just begun. As the scavengers scrambled to make sense of the rapidly changing situation, the warship's AI spoke again. But this time, the voice was deep, haunting, and unintelligible. It was a language the scavengers had never heard before, a language far beyond anything they had encountered in their travels. Each word seemed to reverberate through the metal hull of the ship, filling the air with a sense of ominous power. The scavengers exchanged worried glances. What was happening? This wasn't just a ship. It was something else, something alive. The ship's core, ancient and powerful, had activated its full systems. The AI spoke once more, its voice clearer now, though still foreign. Hostile entities detected. Intruders identified. Initiating defense protocols. The crew froze in terror as the warship's systems hummed to life. The voice of the AI was almost calm, as if it had been waiting for this moment. But to the scavengers, it sounded like a death sentence. And then, the AI revealed its true identity. "This is the U.S. Retribution, a human warship." The AI's voice boomed through the ship's corridors, sending shivers down the alien crew's spines. "Constructed millennia ago by Earth's lost empire, I am the destroyer of worlds. A chill ran through the scavengers as the realization hit them. They had not found just another derelict warship. This was a relic of an ancient, forgotten species, the humans. Long thought to be extinct, their empire had once ruled vast portions of the galaxy, and this ship was one of their weapons of mass destruction. A ship designed not only to battle but to obliterate entire fleets. The ship's core buzzed with energy, and the scavengers could feel the power coursing through the walls, the air growing thick with the energy the warship was releasing. There was no escape now. The crew's leader, still trying to maintain control, barked orders. "We need to shut it down. Now," he shouted, waving his hands frantically. "Get to the central control room. We can still stop this." But the scavengers were already too late. Before they could act, the warship's energy shield surged to life with a deafening roar. The entire ship shimmered as an impenetrable barrier surrounded it, pulsing with bright blue light. The scavengers had never seen anything like it. They had no way of penetrating those shields, no way of even getting close enough to disable the ship's systems. And then, just as quickly, the warship disappeared. One moment it was there, towering in front of them, and the next it vanished. Cloaking technology, so advanced that not even the best of their ships could detect it, activated instantly. The ship had become invisible. They could no longer see it, but they could feel its presence all around them. The entire space seemed to hold its breath as the warship hovered in the void, unseen and deadlier than ever. "Where did it go?" one of the scavengers asked in panic, his voice trembling. They looked around, trying to spot any signs of the ship, but it was as though it had melted into the fabric of space itself. Without warning, the first of the automated drones appeared, small but deadly combat robots that emerged from hidden compartments within the warship. They were faster than the scavengers could react, moving with lightning speed, their small laser weapons aimed directly at their targets. The aliens scrambled, trying to find cover, but there was nowhere to hide. The drones were everywhere, darting between the corridors, their red sensors glowing menacingly. The battle that ensued was chaotic, a blur of movement and flashing lights. The scavengers fought desperately, but they were outmatched. The drone's lasers struck with pinpoint accuracy, cutting through metal and flesh alike. One of the scavengers barely managed to duck as a laser bolt sliced through the air, grazing his arm. Another was not so lucky. A drone's blast hit him square in the chest, and he disintegrated in a flash of light, his screams cut short. The crew's leader, Bonner, barked more orders, but his voice was filled with desperation. "Retreat. Find cover," he shouted. They ran, scattering through the dark corridors, trying to avoid the relentless onslaught of the drones. But the warship was not done yet. From the ship's hull, turrets began to emerge, their sleek, deadly barrels aimed at the scattered scavengers. The ground shook as they powered up, and then, without warning, the first shot rang out, a blast of concentrated energy that struck Bonner directly in the chest. The force of the explosion sent him flying backwards, his body disintegrating before the others could even comprehend what had happened. In an instant, their fearless leader was gone. The crew froze, horror-stricken. Bonner had been their strongest leader, the one who had guided them through countless dangerous missions. And now he was gone, vaporized by a single blast from the warship's turrets. His death hit them harder than they could have imagined. It wasn't just the loss of their leader. It was the realization of how completely outmatched they were. This was no ordinary ship. It was a warship built by a long-extinct species, and they were nothing but ants in its path. The remaining scavengers were paralyzed by fear. The warship's weapons were far beyond anything they had ever seen. The drones were relentless, the turrets were deadly, and the cloaking device made it nearly impossible to track the ship's movements. The scavengers' hopes of escaping alive were quickly fading. One of the scavengers, a young alien with wide, terrified eyes, tried to gather his bearings. He turned to his companions, his voice shaking. "We need to get out of here. We can't fight it. It's too powerful." But another scavenger, a veteran of many battles, gritted his teeth. "We don't have a choice. We either fight or we die." And so they fought. They fought with everything they had, dodging lasers, ducking behind walls, and trying to outmaneuver the warship's automated defenses. But it was like trying to fight a shadow. No matter how fast they ran or how hard they fought, the warship was always one step ahead, always invisible, always deadly. The ship's AI taunted them with its cold, emotionless voice. "You are not worthy of survival. You will be eliminated." The scavengers realized, with sinking hearts, that they were not just fighting for treasure anymore. They were fighting for their lives. But with Bonner dead and their options running out, the crew began to understand something far more terrifying. They weren't the hunters anymore. They were the hunted. And the retribution was closing in for the kill. The scavengers were reeling from the loss of their leader, Bonner. They had never encountered a threat like this, and the warship they had mistakenly thought was just a relic of a lost civilization was now their worst nightmare. The ship was cloaked, invisible to their eyes, but still hunting them relentlessly. They had no idea how to fight something this powerful, no way to outwit it. Their once confident demeanor had been replaced by fear and desperation. The warship's AI had already shown it was more than capable of taking them down. It was a perfect machine of war, and they were nothing more than helpless intruders in its domain. But then, in the midst of the chaos, something strange happened. The warship's AI, which had been relentlessly attacking them, suddenly shifted gears. There was a sudden pulse of energy, and the voice of the AI cut through the darkness. This time, however, the voice wasn't cold or emotionless. It was urgent, even desperate. Distress signal activated, broadcasting to human fleet. The scavengers froze, exchanging confused glances. A distress signal. To whom? They had no idea what the warship was talking about. They had assumed humans were nothing more than a distant memory, an extinct species wiped out long ago by the very forces they now faced. The galaxy had long forgotten Earth's might and influence. So why would a warship, their warship, be calling for help from humans? One of the scavengers, the youngest of the group, shook his head in disbelief. Humans? But they were wiped out centuries ago. This can't be happening. This ship, it can't be calling for them. It's a mistake. But there was no time for questioning. The warship's AI had already done what it was programmed to do. It sent out a powerful signal, a beacon that only a human fleet would recognize, its frequency uniquely tailored to call out to ships that hadn't been seen or heard from in millennia. As the signal traveled across the vast stretches of space, the scavengers watched in stunned silence. They had no idea what the consequences would be. Were humans still out there, somewhere in the galaxy? Had they really survived all these years, hidden away from the rest of the universe? And then, the unimaginable happened. A sudden vibration shook the entire warship. It wasn't the usual hum or thrum of the ship's systems. This was different, more intense, more alive. The scavengers could feel the entire structure of the ship reverberating with a newfound energy. Something was happening. Something big. They rushed to the windows, their eyes wide with awe and fear as they looked out into the vast emptiness of space. The ship's cloaking device flickered, its invisibility momentarily fading. And in that instant, the scavengers saw it. An enormous fleet materialized before their eyes, seemingly out of nowhere. The fleet wasn't like anything they had ever seen before. The ships were massive, their dark, gleaming forms cloaked in the same way the warship had been, but now visible, appearing out of thin air as if they had been hiding in plain sight all along. The scavengers gasped as they took in the sight of the fleet. These ships were far more advanced than anything the scavengers could have imagined. Even the warship they had discovered was nothing compared to the power of this fleet. The ships were old, ancient, in fact, but there was no mistaking their lethal capabilities. The scavengers could see the massive weapons and energy shields pulsing with power as the ships hovered in space, silently preparing for what was to come. The warship's engines powered up, a deep, resonating hum filling the air as the ship's systems sprang to life. The entire warship seemed to be alive, its energy now syncing with the incoming fleet. The scavengers could only watch as the warship, once an isolated, terrifying anomaly, was now part of something far larger, something even more dangerous. The fleet's movement was calculated and precise. The ships didn't seem to be in a hurry. They moved with the kind of calm confidence only a force with immense power could possess. It was as if the ships had been waiting for this moment, waiting for the signal, the call that had just reached them. One of the scavengers, still in disbelief, whispered, "It's impossible. How could they have survived all this time?" But there was no time for more questions, no time for further contemplation. The fleet's weapon systems began to power up, and the entire space around them seemed to crackle with energy. The scavengers knew that what was about to happen would change everything. The warship's eye spoke again, its voice now filled with a strange reverence. Initiating orbital bombardment sequence. The scavengers turned their gaze toward the planet in the distance, their breath catching in their throats as they saw the gigantic warships raise their weapons in unison. A massive beam of energy shot from one of the ships, followed by another, and then another. The weapons fired in perfect synchronization, each blast leaving behind a trail of light as it ripped through the void and headed toward the planet below. The first blast hit the surface of the planet with a deafening roar, and the scavengers could see the planet tremble under the impact. The surface cracked, and massive explosions erupted, sending plumes of fire and debris into the atmosphere. It was a scene of utter destruction, total annihilation. The scavengers watched, horrified, as the planet was bombarded from orbit. Each strike from the human warships was more powerful than the last, and the planet seemed to wither under the onslaught. It was a brutal, unrelenting display of firepower. They're destroying the planet. One of the scavengers gasped. He had never seen anything like this before. The level of destruction was beyond comprehension. The AI, cold and emotionless, spoke again. "This is the power of humanity. This is what you have awakened." And as the scavengers watched the planet below crumble under the weight of humanity's forgotten might, they understood the truth. Humanity had not been wiped out. They had simply been lying in wait, ready to reclaim their place in the galaxy. The scavengers had triggered something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. And now, the warship was no longer just a relic. It was part of a vast, reawakening empire, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The scavengers' panic intensified as they watched the destruction unfold around them. The once quiet, seemingly lifeless warship was now a focal point of the galaxy's most powerful and deadly forces. What had begun as a simple scavenging mission had spiraled into a nightmare of unimaginable proportions. They had awakened a force they couldn't hope to defeat. The human fleet was no longer a myth. It was real, and it was coming for them. The feeling of helplessness was overwhelming. The scavengers had no time to prepare for what was about to happen. They had assumed that humans were gone, erased from history, but now they realized their mistake. The galaxy's forgotten race was far from extinct. In fact, they had been lying in wait, hidden, until the time was right for their return. As the warship's engines powered up and its weapons began to charge, the scavengers knew they were no longer in control. The signal had gone out. The humans had answered. And now, they were about to feel the full force of humanity's wrath. The first wave of the human fleet arrived just as the scavengers were scrambling to find an escape route. The massive ships seemed to appear out of nowhere, their cloaking devices dropping away to reveal the true scale of the fleet. The scavengers could hardly believe their eyes. What they had thought was just a faint signal was now a nightmare made real. The fleet was here. Led by a battle-hardened commander, the human fleet immediately went on the offensive. The commander had seen it all: wars, destruction, loss. And yet, he was resolute. This was not just a battle for survival. It was a battle for vengeance, for the lost glory of Earth, for the legacy that had been buried for centuries. The commander's voice echoed through the communication channels, calm and steady, as he gave his orders. Engage the enemy. Show them the strength of humanity. We will never be forgotten. The commander's words ignited a fire within his fleet. The human ships, sleek and deadly, began to move with precision, their advanced cloaking devices rendering them invisible to the alien forces. The scavengers, who had been so confident moments ago, now found themselves caught in a deadly trap. The human ships struck from hidden positions, their weapons firing with pinpoint accuracy. The first blasts from the human fleet hit the alien defenses with overwhelming force. The scavenger ships were unprepared for the onslaught. The alien ships, once so confident in their own superiority, now found themselves struggling to hold their ground. Explosions rang out across the battlefield as the human ships unleashed a barrage of firepower. The space battle that ensued was nothing short of spectacular. Massive energy beams cut through the darkness of space, tearing into the alien ships. The human fleet's advanced weapon systems tore through shields and hulls with ruthless efficiency. The scavengers, stunned by the sudden assault, were scrambling to defend themselves. But it was too late. Humanity had returned to the galaxy with a vengeance, and there was no stopping them. But it wasn't just the warships that would make their presence felt. As the battle raged in space, a human soldier made his way aboard one of the alien ships. The soldier was an elite warrior, trained for combat in the most dangerous environments. His mission was simple: infiltrate, destroy, and neutralize. Inside the alien ship, chaos had broken out. The scavengers were scrambling to find a way to fight back, but they were ill-prepared for a battle on this scale. The human soldier fought his way through the corridors, taking on robots and aliens alike. The speed and precision of his movements were a testament to the strength of human warriors. Every strike was calculated, every movement deliberate. He was a force of nature, unstoppable and ruthless. The alien robots, which had been formidable in their own right, were no match for the soldier's skills. He cut through them with ease, his weapons slicing through their metal frames. The aliens who tried to stop him were no better off. He moved through the ship like a shadow, taking down any opposition that stood in his way. As the soldier advanced, he felt the weight of history on his shoulders. He knew what he was fighting for. It wasn't just for survival. It was for the pride of his people, for the legacy of Earth. Humanity had been forgotten, but now they were back, and they weren't going to let anyone forget again. Meanwhile, back in the heart of the battle, the human fleet pressed forward with relentless determination. The scavenger ships, now under heavy fire from all sides, were slowly being picked apart. The alien forces tried to regroup, but it was clear that they were outmatched. The human fleet was like a storm, and nothing could stand in its way. On the command bridge of the lead human warship, the fleet commander stood with unwavering resolve. He had seen many battles in his time, but this one was different. This was the moment he had been waiting for, an opportunity to reclaim the lost glory of Earth, to remind the galaxy of the power that humanity once held. As the battle raged on, the commander recalled the stories of Earth's past. He remembered the great cities, the advancements in technology, the mighty fleets that once ruled the stars. But he also remembered the pain, the loss. Humanity had been exiled, forced into hiding, its once proud civilization reduced to nothing more than a myth. But no longer. The commander's eyes burned with the fire of 1,000 generations. The time for hiding was over. The time for vengeance had come. "Tell them who we are," he said, his voice steady but filled with conviction. "We are humanity, and we are not afraid." The words were a rallying cry for the fleet. The soldiers, warriors who had been in exile for centuries, now fought with a fierce determination. They weren't just fighting for their lives. They were fighting for their home, for the future of humanity, for the honor of their ancestors. As the human fleet continued to tear through the alien defenses, the scavengers began to realize the true extent of the mistake they had made. They had underestimated humanity. They had thought that Earth's power had been lost forever. But now, as the human fleet advanced, it was clear that they were wrong. The scavengers had awakened a force they couldn't possibly defeat, and now they were paying the price for their arrogance. In the midst of the battle, one of the scavengers, his body bruised and broken from the attacks, looked up at the warship's view screen. He saw the human fleet closing in, the ships massive and unstoppable. The commander's words echoed in his mind, and he knew that they had no hope of surviving. Humanity had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The tide of the battle had shifted. The once confident alien forces, who had dominated the galaxy for so long, were now crumbling under the weight of humanity's fury. It was as though the very fabric of the galaxy itself had changed. What was once considered the unstoppable power of the alien empire was now unraveling, piece by piece, as the human fleet unleashed its superior tactics and advanced technology. The scavengers who had dared to awaken humanity's forgotten wrath found themselves hopelessly outmatched. The fight was no longer a contest of strength. It was a punishment, a vengeance that had been centuries in the making. From the beginning, the aliens had underestimated humanity. They had believed Earth's influence had faded into the annals of history, that the great empires of the past had died off, leaving only dust and old relics behind. But the human fleet had proved them wrong. The fleet's tactics were precise and ruthless, a reflection of the very nature of humanity itself. Every move was calculated, every strike delivered with overwhelming force. The once powerful alien ships, capable of decimating entire civilizations, now found themselves caught in a vice they couldn't escape. The human ships moved like shadows, striking from unexpected angles, devastating enemy lines with pinpoint accuracy. As the battle raged on, the warship's AI activated once again, its cold, mechanical voice filling the control room. The words it spoke were a testament to humanity's unyielding spirit, a declaration of defiance that echoed across the battlefield. Humanity will never be subjugated again. The words rang through the ship's speakers like a clarion call, a statement of purpose that would reverberate through the galaxy for generations to come. The AI had no fear, no hesitation. It was programmed to fight for the survival of humanity, and it would stop at nothing to ensure that Earth's power was never forgotten. The human fleet's next move was swift and brutal. With surgical precision, they targeted the central command hub of the alien forces. The alien ships, scattered across the battlefield, had no chance of coordinating a defense as the human fleet's weapons tore into their command structure. The AI controlling the warship worked in tandem with the fleet, guiding the attack with unwavering accuracy. The orbital bombardment that followed was nothing short of catastrophic. Entire alien cities were leveled in mere moments, their towering structures reduced to rubble. The once proud alien capital was now nothing more than a smoking ruin, its streets littered with the remnants of a fallen empire. The scale of the devastation was breathtaking. What had once been a vibrant center of alien civilization was now a wasteland. The skies above the cities were filled with streaks of fire and explosions as the human fleet unleashed wave after wave of destruction. The command hub, once thought to be an impenetrable fortress, was reduced to a smoldering crater. The AI's voice echoed one last time. The age of alien dominance is over. With the central command hub destroyed and the alien forces reeling, the remaining scavengers could see the end was near. The warship's automated systems continued to launch wave after wave of strikes, each one more devastating than the last. It was a relentless onslaught, and the aliens had no way to fight back. The human fleet, now fully engaged in the annihilation of the alien forces, showed no mercy. The power of humanity's revenge was unstoppable, and the alien forces, who had once thought themselves invincible, were now left to face their ultimate downfall. As the battle reached its peak, the aliens tried to rally what was left of their fleet. Desperate to save themselves, they attempted to retreat, but it was too late. The human fleet had already closed in. Their ships were no longer invisible, no longer operating from hidden positions. They had become a force of nature, a relentless tide of destruction. The alien ships that tried to flee were hunted down with precision, their desperate attempts to escape proving futile in the face of the overwhelming might of humanity's fleet. One by one, the remaining alien ships were torn apart. The once mighty armada, which had threatened to crush Earth centuries ago, was now little more than debris drifting through space. The final alien ship, the last hope of the alien forces, was cornered. Its weapons fired in a futile attempt to fend off the human fleet, but it was no use. The ship's shields failed, and in a final dramatic explosion, it was obliterated. The sound of the explosion rippled through space, a symbol of the end of an era. The battle was over. Humanity had triumphed. The aliens who had once mocked Earth and its people had been utterly defeated. The human fleet, battered but victorious, took a moment to regroup. Their mission had been one of revenge, but it had also been a declaration that humanity, once thought extinct, had returned to reclaim its place in the galaxy, and anyone who dared to challenge them would face the full force of Earth's fury. The final alien ship had been destroyed, but the message was clear: humanity would never be subjugated again. The galaxy would never forget the power of Earth, and the aliens who had once believed themselves to be invincible now had no choice but to live in the shadow of humanity's wrath. In the aftermath of the battle, the human fleet began to make its way back to Earth. The victory was hard-earned, but it was a victory nonetheless. The fleet had proven that, no matter how far the galaxy had fallen, humanity was still a force to be reckoned with. The age of human dominance had not come to an end. It had only just begun. The aliens, now scattered and defeated, would have to live with the knowledge that they had awakened a sleeping giant. And as for humanity, they had shown the galaxy that Earth would never be forgotten, that their legacy would live on for centuries to come. The human fleet had returned, and it would not be leaving again. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson that day: never underestimate humanity. The galaxy had long forgotten the ancient stories of Earth, a planet once home to a powerful civilization that had vanished without a trace. Or so the aliens thought. Deep in the forgotten corners of space, a group of highly advanced alien scavengers stumbled upon what they believed to be nothing more than an ancient relic, a warship abandoned and left to drift in the void of time. Covered in dust, lifeless, and seemingly inert, the warship appeared harmless. Its origins lost to the stars, its purpose forgotten by history. But one alien, a young scout, noticed something strange, a symbol on the hull of the ship that stirred something deep within him. It was an old, familiar symbol, one that matched a long-forgotten history: humanity. The scavengers, intrigued by the find but dismissing it as irrelevant, assumed the ship was just another artifact from a bygone era. Unaware of the dormant power hidden within, they began to explore the warship, their movements echoing through its vast halls. What they didn't know was that their very presence was enough to awaken something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. As the scavengers ventured deeper into the ship, a low hum began to fill the air. It started softly at first, but soon the hum turned into a buzzing energy. The warship's AI came to life, and the lights flickered on, casting an eerie glow over the cold, metallic corridors. Weapon systems powered up, and energy surged through the ship like an awakening giant. The scavengers froze, realizing too late that the ship was not abandoned. It was alive, and it recognized them as intruders. The control room lit up in a cascade of flashing lights, the massive weaponry systems coming to life. Orbital cannons slowly moved into position, their targeting systems locking onto the unsuspecting scavengers. Before they could react, the automated defenses of the ship began their assault. In a flash, one of the scavengers was vaporized by an energy blast. Panic swept through the remaining crew members, but there was no escape. The warship's massive doors sealed shut, trapping them inside. The hunt had begun. The scavengers, terrified and scrambling to regain control, quickly realized that their efforts were futile. The ship's AI, in a language they could not understand, labeled them as hostile and began charging its weapons. But it didn't end there. The warship revealed its true identity, an ancient human destroyer designed centuries ago by a long-lost Earth civilization. This ship was not just any relic. It was a weapon of mass destruction, created to annihilate entire fleets in the blink of an eye. Desperate, the scavengers tried to deactivate the ship's systems, but it was too late. The warship's cloaking device activated, rendering it invisible to their eyes. But that didn't stop it from hunting them. The scavengers ran through the ship's halls, trying to escape, but the warship's precision was unmatched. Small combat robots, drones, and turrets appeared out of nowhere, attacking with pinpoint accuracy. The scavengers fought back, but one by one, they fell. In the midst of the chaos, one of the scavenger leaders, Bonner, was struck down by the ship's automated turrets. His death marked a turning point. The alien crew, now fully aware of the power they were up against, knew that they were outmatched and out of time. As the situation grew dire, the warship's AI sent out a distress signal, an ancient beacon, one that could only be recognized by a human fleet. The scavengers were left dumbfounded. Humans, they whispered in disbelief. But humans were supposed to be extinct. They had no idea that this signal, long forgotten, would awaken something they could never have imagined. Far from oblivious, a human fleet received the distress signal. It had been dormant for centuries, hidden away in the depths of space, waiting for the right moment to rise again. The galaxy had long since forgotten the might of Earth, but that moment had come. The warship's engines roared to life, and the massive warships of the human fleet began to materialize out of the shadows. The scavengers watched in awe and terror as colossal human ships, cloaked and ancient, yet more powerful than anything they had ever seen, appeared in front of them. These ships were more than just vessels. They were weapons, weapons built to destroy, to reclaim, to conquer. A dramatic visual unfolded before the scavengers. The fleet's massive weapons charged up, and they could see the devastating firepower ready to be unleashed. The human warships targeted a nearby planet, and in an instant, the sky erupted with energy as orbital bombardment obliterated everything in its path. Cities crumbled, and the alien scavengers watched in stunned silence as the raw power of humanity's technology was displayed before them. The human fleet, now fully operational, had arrived to deliver the long-awaited revenge. The once dominant alien forces, now shaken and terrified, found themselves facing the fury of a race they had believed to be lost forever. The leader of the human fleet, a battle-hardened commander with a deep understanding of Earth's ancient glory, prepared to lead the charge. The warship, still cloaked, took the lead, unleashing massive laser beams at the alien defenses. The battle erupted into chaos. Human warships appeared and disappeared in flashes, using their cloaking devices to launch deadly ambushes against the unsuspecting aliens. Precision strikes destroyed key alien positions, tearing through their defenses with devastating accuracy. On the ground, a human soldier boarded an alien ship and fought in close combat, taking on robotic enemies and alien warriors alike. His strength and courage showcased the power of humanity's finest warriors. The leader of the human fleet spoke of Earth's lost glory, the reason for humanity's exile, and the unyielding resolve to reclaim what was once theirs. His speech resonated with every soldier under his command, fueling their determination to fight with everything they had. The human fleet fought not just for survival, but for a return to the greatness they had lost, an underdog spirit that no alien force could suppress. The tide of the battle began to turn as the superior tactics and technology of the human fleet overwhelmed the alien forces. The once dominant species of the galaxy was no match for Earth's relentless vengeance. The warship's AI, with a voice full of power and conviction, declared, "Humanity will never be subjugated again." The command hub of the alien forces was targeted, and the warship launched an orbital bombardment that leveled entire alien cities in a single stroke. The alien forces tried to retreat, but they were too late. The final climax came when the human fleet decimated the alien command structure. One by one, the alien ships were destroyed, until only one remained. It fought desperately, but the final alien ship was obliterated in a dramatic explosion that shook the very fabric of space. The battle was over. With the alien forces defeated, the human warship roared in victory. Its AI, proud and unyielding, announced, "We are humanity. We do not forgive. We do not forget." The commander of the human fleet sent a final message across the galaxy. "Earth has returned. All who stand against us will fall." The human fleet moved across the galaxy, reclaiming their lost territories. The warship led them, cutting through space like a blade, its systems humming with energy. The galaxy would remember Earth's power, and the aliens who had once believed themselves invincible would now tremble in fear at the return of humanity. The story ended with the humans reclaiming their place as the true rulers of the galaxy. The aliens were left to wonder how they had ever thought they could conquer a species so resilient, so determined. The galaxy had learned its lesson: never underestimate humanity.